And also spoke a short time ago to the Leader of the Greens, Senator Christine Milne. She was also in our Parliament House studio. Christine Milne, thanks for being there.
Thank you.
Now, do you regard the government's delay in boosting foreign aid along the lines of the Millennium Development Goals as a broken promise?
Yes, I do. Right back in 2000, John Howard even signed on to the UN objective of 0.7% of GNI by 2015, but there's been a tripartite commitment to at least that for a very long time. The government's decision now to delay that is a broken promise, particularly since they've had a whole lot of literature printed for the bid for Australia to get on the UN Security Council, saying that Australia does as Australia says. Well, I think the UN family is not going to be impressed by one of the richest countries in the world basically getting into the black on the back of the poorest.
But not a serious enough broken promise to jeopardise the Labor-Green alliance?
Well, the issue is the government can do this without it coming through the Parliament in a way that we can deal with it. It won't come as a complementary measure. It'll be part of the bills as they come through delivering supply. But we've made it very clear to the government we regard this as a broken promise. And I think in the Asian century, it's not a good thing for Australia to be sending out those kind of selfish signals in the neighbourhood.
Well, except the Bob Carr's argument is there simply isn't the money to do it right now, so it's only being delayed by 1 year, so the commitment is still there.
Well, the money's there to do it. We would have supported the government in getting rid of the diesel fuel rebate for the mining sector. That would have been $2 billion. That would have covered it. We would have been prepared to support the super profits tax. We would get rid of accelerated depreciation for some of the other tax breaks for the mining sector in particular. So they chose not to do it, Tony. They had the opportunity to, and it really smacks of not ringing true to Wayne Swan's objective of saying he wants a fair go. Well, it's not a fair go, particularly for people in East Timor, in PNG. So many of our neighbours need that money. The peak bodies are saying that the extra money could have led to saving up to 800,000 lives.
Let's move on. Bob Carr told us tonight that he's quietly pleased that the minority government situation allowed the government to replace a company tax cut with a boost to struggling families. Do you take any credit for this?
Absolutely. I'm sure when the Greens announced we would not support the tax cut for big business over in Treasury, they would have all been going, yes, because they knew that that created the space to be able to spend the money and to be able to redistribute wealth. The problem the Greens have got with it, we would have liked to have seen more systemic changes. So we would have liked to have seen a $50 increase in New Start, and we certainly don't support the taking away the benefit from the 100,000 single mothers, but also we would have liked to have seen money spent on the Gonski review, because you can't be a clever, creative, innovative country without spending money on education. Having said that, we're pleased that there has been a move on the National Disability Insurance Scheme and also on aged care. So some of the systematic changes are happening, but we really think they missed an opportunity when it came to education.
Now, do you see this budget largesse nonetheless as an effective way to win back the support of voters who believe the carbon tax is going to hurt them financially?
I think the government hasn't really done a very good job of selling the fact that the reason the tax-free threshold's going up from 6,000 to 18,000 is because we are charging the polluters for their pollution. Half of that money's going back to the community in terms of compensation, and that has allowed this change to the tax system. So when you've got people who fill out their tax returns and suddenly find they're not paying tax on the first 18,000, that is because we introduced carbon pricing. There's also just out the door in the last week over $200 million into rural and regional Australia for a whole lot of programs under the Biodiversity Fund, and we're of course setting up the Clean Energy Finance Corporation, which will drive renewable energy right around Australia. So a lot of really positive, good things are coming from carbon pricing.
Let me take this opportunity to ask an obvious question. There's been a lot of speculation about this, but it strikes me, or as far as I can make out, you were the chief proponent of a carbon tax at the time when Labor and the Greens were trying to strike their alliance deal. Was that a non-negotiable fact for you?
Yes, in terms of carbon pricing, but it's not a carbon tax. We argued strongly for
well, they call it a carbon tax.
That's what they call it, but it's actually an emissions trading scheme that we've legislated. It will have a fixed price for 3 years and then go to flexible pricing after that. So it was certainly a key component of Prime Minister Gillard actually being able to take government. It is right there in the agreement, as is Denticare, which we've had delivered in this year's budget, and that is one of those systemic reforms that's great.
All right, let me stick with the carbon price though, because would you at all, under any circumstances, countenance a lowering of the carbon price, the fixed carbon price or tax, if the government came and asked you to do that for political reasons?
Well, they simply can't do it because the whole package is integrated. So when you calculate the $23 starting price, all of the compensation is based on that. The tax-free threshold is based on that. The whole provisions are all based on that. So you simply can't change it without changing so many other parts of the package. All of those compensation payments are in the mail. You simply can't do that now.
Could you move quicker to an emissions trading scheme with a floating price fixed or that floats against the global carbon price?
Well, we've put in place floor price and floor ceilings after 2015. We've got this fixed price.
Would you countenance bringing that forward? That's what I'm saying, before the next election, for example, or do you completely rule out doing that?
Completely rule out doing that because we need to set up the Climate Authority, and that will be the body that determines the target, the trajectory of emissions reductions. They are due to report in the first half of 2014, so it will be after the next election that the target, the trajectory of getting to the 80% reduction by 2050 will be set for the first 5 years. So all these are integral parts of the scheme, and that's why you just can't pull one bit out and change it. That Climate Change Authority is critical.
So can I just confirm there is no flexibility at all as far as you're concerned? You simply won't allow any change to this, no matter who's the leader?
That's right. There won't be a change to the clean energy package between now and the next election, regardless of who's the leader. But mind you, I expect Prime Minister Gillard to still be there.
Christine Milne, we thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.